I'm just not adulting.
That might be a perfect cold open, because I had just started recording when you said that.
Okay. It works for me. I am an adult. I'm just not adulting.
And I'm going to take just a second.
Here he goes again, taking a second.
No, come on. Your clicks on your phone are ending up audible.
How about now? Oh.
Yeah, that's audible too.
I thought it was on silent. I put my phone down to silent. That's weird. See? Oh.
So in case anyone can't tell, we're a little bit out of practice.
Not out of practice. Just having fun.
Welcome to the first episode in a long damn time of Ending the Sexual Dark Age.
There's a good reason.
Yes.
You've been very sick, and in case people aren't aware, I've shared with some of our fans who reached out to us. I hate to use the word fans, but people who listen to us.
Our audience.
They have reached out and was just wondering if we're going to have more podcasts. And then when I share the story that you almost died on me, then they're like, oh my gosh, I hope he's okay. Some people use stronger words than that. So.
Yeah, so shortly after the release of our last episode, I ended up being admitted to the hospital with a sepsis diagnosis, which for those in the know is about a 50% mortality rate.
I knew. And I didn't want you to know how nervous I was. And so I just want to share with you that I reached out to one of your dearest friends to let her know that you were extremely sick. And I did not have a chance to tell her that it was sepsis because you were in the room. But you finally fell asleep. And so I went out because she said, call me when you get a chance. And so I went out into the hallway and called her. And then I could finally cry because I felt like I had to keep it together while we were in the room because I know that you're very intelligent, extremely intelligent, but I didn't know if you realized what the mortality rate was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
coin toss. I won the coin toss.
You did. And you have no idea. It just goes to show that I did not have enough faith in what you could do yourself because all I could do was just cry on her shoulder. And she said, I'm coming down right now. And you know what a long ride that would be for her. So I said, he's finally sleeping and, I'll keep you informed. But first thing she could do was be down there the next day when it was possible for her. So I'm very thankful for her being a shoulder to lean on during very scary times for us.
Yes.
Because my world would have collapsed. It really would have.
Well, the two of you pretty much made sure I didn't die. I mean,
yes.
You get a lot of credit for me still being around.
Well, thank you. Really, it had a lot to do with you being able to heal properly.
Yeah, well, I had a great doctor.
You did. You did.
I am what you would call hard to kill. So, that gave me probably a few extra grains of sand on my side of the scale.
So glad to have you back. And, for people, there's a lot more to the story. Your scar tissue is what actually started the whole thing. Scar tissue from 19...
Yeah, I had, when I was 10 years old, I had my appendix out. And the scar tissue from that operation calcified over time and ended up just rupturing one day. And so I was very nauseous. I couldn't keep food down. You made a deal with me that if we ordered dinner, you asked me to agree that if we ordered dinner and I couldn't keep anything down, we would go to the hospital, which sounded very reasonable at that point. I was in quite a lot of pain. So
little did you know, though, that, okay.
Had I realized there was any chance of it being something that bad, I would not have waited to go to the emergency room.
And it only took literally seconds of trying to put it down, and it was coming right back up. So yeah. I looked at you and said, you ready? And you said, yep. And honestly, I think you were ready early that morning when you went for the ultrasound, and they did the ultrasound, and you said, I feel worse.
Oh, absolutely. In hindsight, I should have gone directly to the emergency room.
Right. But you really just thought it was something, kind of aggravating your system more than anything else. And, it's scary. And we have another couple that we who have gone through the same similar things with not knowing if he was going to live or die. And I don't want to say their names because I don't know how much they have it out there, but they too were very fortunate. You know, it was very scary, scary times. And so you really don't realize what that does to everything, your everyday life. We work together, share the business together, and everything. And it's like,
Well, right. In addition to me being, very well, it was for a period of about 6 months. I was only partially functional for one reason or the other. I was and it was we don't need to lay the whole thing out, but it was kind of a string of very closely related, like medical dominoes falling. So, in total, in 2018, I spent 30 nights in the hospital. I was under anesthesia 7 times.
surgery on your birthday.
Yep, 3 major surgeries.
Yes.
Under anesthesia 7 times. I got 14 CAT scans. It got kind of ridiculous.
You were at your wit's end, basically. You were like so done. And I'm glad that you hung in there because, many walks around the unit. And the only time I felt comfortable leaving was when our friend came and stayed with you, and your mom coming and staying with you. She spent whatever time I needed her to come. So if I had to go do payroll or anything like that, somebody was there, somebody that I could count on and that you could count on. And so.
Well, yeah, in addition to me being, not functional whatsoever in our personal life, I was basically non-functional for work too. So you had lost the person who ran half of the business.
I would say more than half. Okay. Let's face facts. Okay. It's been an extremely busy time in our business, which also added to, less time recording, because we just grew leaps and bounds over what we expected and needed a bigger building. And so we were looking for a bigger building. And so all of those things that just became chaos and trying to manage them. So we had found a building, but you were in the middle of being sick and we're signing papers for the building and
signing a lease while I'm barely alive. I've
right.
been out of the hospital 5 minutes and literally the day after I got out of the hospital, I'm at a lease signing.
And
with a 20 centimeter incision in my abdomen.
And then trying to add more staff because we needed more staff and we needed to grow our CAD department, everything. It was just unbelievable. And I did the best that I could, but I did not feel comfortable leaving you there because I love doctors and nurses. I worked in the medical field for a long time, but we're all human and we all make mistakes. And so it just takes one. Like you'd have one nurse who would tell you one thing, but another nurse would be like, oh, well, you have to have saline when you're using potassium because otherwise.
Yeah, I had gotten like 3 of those potassium injections with no saline.
I know.
By the time that was discovered by people other than me. I mean, I was so used to shit just hurting at that point that
yes, because
the fact that the injection was burning really was not on my radar as something that was unexpected. And
that's when I thought I could be, by that time, I thought I could be at the shop and running the shop for a couple of days and just come after the work hours. But then when I found out that you had received several doses of that, I became nervous and said, I can't leave you alone. I just couldn't.
But by and large, I did. Hats off to nurses. I had overall outstanding nursing care.
You did.
I mean, there were a couple of wackos in there, but I mean, it's law of averages.
And let's not forget your doctor, who was extremely awesome. And you do not find a doctor very often that is willing to admit that I don't want to use the word made a mistake, because I wouldn't say that he necessarily made a mistake.
It was what he said. He went when he went into my surgery. He had pretty specific expectations as to what he thought he was going to find after he opened me up.
Right.
The first thing that he said to me when he came to see me after surgery was, "I totally blew the diagnosis. I got in there and it wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be." So that was when I found out that it was from the appendectomy.
And there's actually two things going on with you. And he said, I thought it was only one thing.
Yep.
And then he realized that there was actually more than one thing going on, which is another thing, just so that, I mean, I'm sure that you are well aware, but when there's more than one thing going on with you and you're septic, that's extremely dangerous odds. It even was less in your favor than we realized because of the fact that there was something else going on besides being septic and the original diagnosis. So,
well, actually, Ator said something at the barbecue. He said, "Yeah, when I saw you, you had so many tubes coming out of you, I thought you were Borg." Which was at one point in time, I had 2 IVs and a PICC line and a nasovascular tube, which is just one of the most miserable experiences I have ever had. That nasovascular tube, do not recommend.
Well,
6 days. Oh.
It was awful. And you were a trooper, though. And I cannot let this slide by without saying a personal thank you. Getting a little emotional to Swinger Doc, because he was checking in with me like every day to see what he could do. And then when he found out what hospital you were at, he realized that somebody that he had studied with.
Yeah, some guy he went to medical school with and studied with
like
all the way
day,
through medical school was a doctor there.
And a pain management doctor. And that was funny. When you were getting ready to go for surgery and you're being shaved, and I'll let you finish that part of it.
Well, no, there's like going into surgery, and this was kind of a last minute surgery because it was they had tried a bunch of things. I did have an excellent doctor, and he knew if he operated on me, it was going to be a major traumatic operation. So he followed every route that he thought might, be able to get some relief and get the fluid out of my abdomen. And that shower motioning me to get on with it. So anyway, it was kind of a last minute surgery. So there's like 6 people working on me, like putting stockings on and doing IVs and doing all kinds of stuff. And I hear this guy, and obviously he wasn't saying Swinger Doc, but I said, "Hey, somebody in here know Swinger Doc?" And I called out to him, and he sticks his head through the curtain and just says, "Hey, I see they're working on you here, but he asked me to check in on you. How's it going? Is your pain being managed okay?" Because that happens to be what he does. And so he said, "Oh, so so how well do you know Swinger Doc?" And I told him, he said, "Yeah, he's a fucking animal. You party with him, you can party."
And you almost had to be there to really know, but it was... It just goes to show you, though, what a wonderful human being Swinger Doc really is. So if you've ever had the opportunity to meet him and his lovely wife, Sexy Pixie, they're an awesome couple. And we were surrounded with great people always checking in with us. I don't want to make light of that. I received a lot of phone calls, a lot of texts, and I don't want to mess it up by saying their real names. So I'm just going to say... You listened to a lot of the podcasts, and everyone was just checking in and making sure that I was okay, not just that JV was okay, but that I was okay. So thank you so much.
And yes, thank you all for that, because I was not exactly in a position to be assisting her in being okay. I was the problem.
Yeah. So, and I have to say that, still not 100% a year later.
No,
year.
No,
still not 100%.
I'm like stuck at 97%.
You're doing extremely well. But the reason that I say that is because you can't push getting back to healthy. I mean, you are doing a great job. We are both restarting our diets because we've both been cleared to be able to do that. So don't anybody invite me out to eat or anything like that without it being somewhat where it can be healthy eating, because I just, I'm going to be strict about it going forward. So, and, but it takes time to get back to it all. And even taking time to stay awake long enough to do a recording after a long day, because you are right back to starting. You're at the office by 5:30 in the morning and rarely leave before 4:30 in the afternoon. So it's a long day.
Well, I work half days, 12 hours.
So, but on top of that, you're still exhausted and you're still dealing with certain side effects, and they're getting better. It's kind of getting to know what your body handles the best way.
Yes.
So
yes, I've had to give up cider for fuck's sake. I'm still alive, but cider's been taken from me.
yes, but you are finding other drinks that work and don't seem to have the same side effects. So it's there. But the good news is you're alive, and that's the most important part of it. And you're alive and you're not miserable. So, because honestly, coming back home and getting you back to any kind of normalcy, or what would be your new normal, as a lot of people say, has not been an easy road for you. So
no, new normal is bullshit.
well, you're alive, and I'll keep that. So I'll take whatever it takes, but it's good to have you getting back to normal and us getting back to recording and things like that. So, yeah. So thank you, everybody, for still listening and for reaching out, and also for being so caring when they haven't actually, a lot of people out there haven't actually met us, but have gotten to know us through the podcast. And it's like they actually do know you, even though they haven't met you.
Oh, absolutely.
So they were genuinely concerned for you and reaching out. And still, I'll get a message, how's JV doing? So I'm glad that we're able to do this today, that we're able to record.
Yeah, me too. And I didn't realize until I looked at the dates. I mean, I just knew that we'd released an episode fairly recently before I got sick. And there's actually one that is almost sitting in the chamber here that I have to get back into, that I apparently had queued up to be the next episode to be released. And I never actually put it out. So, but before I say too much about that, I want to check it out and make sure I actually know what it is.
It might be from our trip.
Well, it was, the way I have it marked, it was an absinthe outtake. Because when we took the absinthe break, we left the microphones rolling, and everybody knew we had left them rolling. But it was just kind of an interesting outtake, and apparently I edited it down, and I was ready to release it as like a bonus episode. So we'll see what that is, and hopefully it'll be a bonus episode. But we do have all kinds of interesting stuff to talk about. We can talk about what somebody getting gravely ill does to your sex life for a while, because that's something people deal with every day.
Yes, definitely. And
the short version is nothing great, but it becomes something that you have to manage and think about.
And it would also be interesting to have the other couple that I was talking about on, if they'd be interested to share their story as well, because everybody's different. Everybody's illness is different. I mean, oddly, we had a female friend who's going through something very similar to what you were going through.
In the hospital at the same time as me.
Yes.
Across town.
Yes. So, but who knows how it is different for her.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there that wow, how do you get back to it, and how can you? And there's ways to do it. But everybody has their own way to do it. So it'd be nice to talk to other people who have gone through a near-death experience and what that does to you. Because it's scary, not just for the patient, but for the significant other. And what does that mean? Some people, what's going through their heads is, what if this person doesn't make it?
I really... there was a moment, and I've talked about this a little bit with friends who have gone through similar things. It was well stated as looking over the edge. I never had I was never in cardiac arrest. I never had the quote near-death experience, that some people have during major medical trauma.
Right.
Because I was never at that point.
Right.
But I certainly was sick enough that nobody would have been surprised if I had died. So it's kind of a different thing than the picture you typically conjure when somebody says near-death experience. But
I was at the oh shit moment.
Yeah.
As soon as the doctor said that you were septic, I was at the oh shit moment.
But and maybe this is just my ginormous ego, but I never really thought I was going to die, because I have a general "you motherfuckers can't kill me" attitude.
Well, and that's important. Even even if you hear cancer patients that are given a stage 4 diagnosis, attitude is everything. So, you know, sometimes I think it's better not to know that you know, have been given this time frame, because the doctors aren't always correct either.
Well, yeah, and like they tell me, best you'll get out of here the fastest if if you make sure you walk around and get your body going again and get things moving. So I was walking so much around the ward, the nurses were making fun of me. I mean, it was I shouldn't say making fun of me. They were playing with me. It was
not only that, but you wish they were playing with you.
A couple of them, yeah. Actually, I really do. There was
me too.
Whew.
But but yeah, they couldn't believe how much walking you were doing and how much you went beyond what they were expecting. Even the first day, the doctor said if you could just walk to the door across from your room, and you did the whole hall.
Yep. No, fuck it. Did 3 laps around the ward. Yeah.
There is overkill when you're trying to show off.
So. No, they told me. They told me if I walked, it would get me out of there faster, and I wanted to get the fuck out of there faster. So it seemed like a pretty simple line of reasoning to me.
Well, I'm just glad you're okay. Glad you're getting back to a good normalcy for yourself and for me.
So, we should. The intent of this episode was just to say hello to everyone, and especially from our stats. Thank you to the many of you who are still there and who are still downloading, and we'll see how big the audience is. But we know there are a whole lot of you still out there because you do reach out to us and talk to us, and we are offline friends with many of you, and we are very thankful for the friendships that we have developed with people who we've met because of this show. So there's some cool stuff coming up. There's, even though we weren't really podcasting at the time, there was a Desire trip last year, and there's some podcasting to be done in relation to that, and more to come.
Yes. So thank you all, and for all the outpouring is, I didn't even get a chance to share it all with you. I tried, but especially while you were sick, it was difficult to do that.
Yeah, I spent a lot. Well, there was a long stretch of time, without getting into medical details, I desperately needed a surgery, but I had to wait for it because I had just had a major surgery and they couldn't go in again.
Oh, and let's not forget about that one. Just a quick insert there that the doctor said you'd be about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And then several nurses came out. He's doing good. And I said, okay. And they weren't sure if he was going to need a colostomy bag or not. And so they kept coming out, and every time they came out, I would say, is there any chance of him needing a colostomy bag? And nope, not yet. Nope, not yet. So hour 4.5 goes by, and I'm thinking he's almost done because he went past 4, but it's almost 5 hours. And his mother was there with me the whole time. And oops, 5 hours go by, and oh, well, they're still being worked on. Over 7 hours before you were done. Over 7. So then I started getting nervous, but no colostomy bag at that point. And I was like full of relief, but then just wanted to get up to the room and see you and make sure that you were okay.
That was the first surgery. Right. I got the colostomy bag with the second surgery, which, for the record, if I would have sat down and did my level best to imagine how awful having a colostomy bag would be, I would have hit about 60% of how awful it actually is. It was like all the sympathy in the world for those of you out there who have had major digestive system failure and have to live with those things for the rest of your life, because it was fucking terrible for me.
And some people learn to live with it extremely well, but imagine how much time that takes. And that takes a lot out of you. So I do truly feel for those people. So, but you were very fortunate, and you didn't even have it on as, very long.
Yep, like 7 weeks.
Yeah, so you were very fortunate. Could have been worse. Yes. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, but there was probably leading between the 2 big surgeries. The first one was March, and the second one was June. So for most of that time, I was in so much pain that I was on literally 100 milligrams of Valium a day, or not Valium, 100 milligrams of Vicodin a day, just to keep my pain level from going from 9 to 10. So, like, if you can imagine 100 milligrams of Vicodin and your pain level is still 9, that was how I spent 2 months, give or take, last year. It was good times.
Yeah. Very good times. No. That little glare you just gave me was like, I did something that I shouldn't have done.
No, I had to pause it for a second, and then I couldn't find the button. It was very embarrassing.
So I just, again, I'm going to attempt and hopefully say everybody's names on either Twitter or Facebook. But again, Swinger Doc and Sexy Pixie, thank you so much beyond these words. I just can't even thank you enough. In our whole support group, basically, Maximus and Gabriella, and Naughty and Naughty's Pet, and of course Ginger and Prof, and April and August, and Rope Master, and your lovely wife, and I can't think of her screenshot name right now, so, and...
It actually is his lovely.
Oh, well, there we go. See, I know. So I know how lovely she is. And Mr. and Mrs. Duncan, and J and H, because I can't think of what your screen names are. So, again,
Captain Cush.
Thank you so much for being there for us. But it meant the world to me because I couldn't really burden you with anything at all. And there was things that I, just didn't know where to turn. So I had tons of help and guidance. So thank you very, very much.
And thank you to all of you from me as well for helping to support her while I was
doing the best you could.
more or less incapacitated. Let's just say more or less incapacitated.
Look at when you see those sexy nurses, and I know he was going, oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow.
Yeah.
He was also like, can't even give a shit right now. And so to see somebody like that this is not good, and getting the support from everybody else, I just can't even thank you enough. Words just do not express how thankful I am. And so before I cry, go ahead.
All right. So I guess it's time to wrap it up. We kept it under a half an hour. And we do have at least one show that we recorded at Desire this past November.
That was never released.
Has to be edited and released.
So there you go.
I got to get my ass back to it.
Yeah, let's get that out so that people can hear about the good times. Met some great people. That trip was some new people, and of course
it was a great trip.
It was one of the best, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of regulars skipped last year, and that made
we missed.
Yeah, and we did miss all of you. Those of you we did not get to see.
But I did.
We hope to see you this year.
Yes.
But we did have we had an amazing, very large group of new people, and they all just woke up Sunday morning like they'd been there the whole time. They assimilated very quickly.
They did, and one nice couple that we met and got to go to Florida and spend some time with them.
Yeah, so I do not remember if they have internet alter egos or not, so I'm going to leave their names out of this.
Right, I am too. But they'll know that we're talking about them.
But yeah, we've had a chance to do a little bit more traveling. We had lots of shit to podcast about, I guess, because we got to talk about going down to Secret's Hideaway.
Right.
Which is a swinger resort in Florida. And so there's a lot of fodder for podcasting.
Yes.
We just need to get my dead ass to drag her in here and turn on the microphones. And
well, I think we're there now.
I'm going to try to be better about that.
Well, I'll make sure you're better about that. How's that?
All right.
Okay. So so we have some to be released, and like I said, that was a good trip. It was I think the regulars who were able to go also felt the same way.
Absolutely.
It was a very different trip. We did, and I think I'm speaking for everyone when I say we missed the regulars that couldn't go, but because they couldn't go and the other people were able to come, it allowed us to really have a great time. Not to mention the party for the dungeon crew. that was out of control, but what a great time.
Yeah, that was, there was some discussion of that in the swing set retrospective episode, which I plan to release on our feed as well. So,
Yes, so it was a great time. But anyway, so I did.
Yeah, that was, that party was like top 10. That my all-time top 10, and I've been to some good fucking parties. It was a crazy night. But anyway, we're back. Thanks to those of you who are still there and those of you who have arrived while we were gone.
Yes.
We'll talk to you very soon. And until then, this is JV and Shower reminding you that sex is one of the greatest things in life, but there is always room for better.
Always.